The thunderous crack of gunfire echoed across the vast Montana plains as Virgil Sutton watched in horror from her porch, clutching her father's old shotgun. A horse galloped riderless through the golden wheat fields that marked the boundary of her homestead, and behind it, a man lay crumpled in the dirt, blood staining his denim shirt crimson. Montana Territory, 1876. The land was as unforgiving as it was beautiful, and Virgil had learned that lesson all too well in the 3 years since her parents had succumbed to influenza, leaving her alone to manage their modest ranch. At 24, she'd grown accustomed to solitude, to the weight of responsibility that pressed down on her shoulders like the sweltering summer sun. Without hesitation, she hitched up her skirts and ran toward the fallen stranger, the tall grass whipping against her legs. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she reached him, a tall man with dust-covered clothes and a weathered face that spoke of long days under the merciless western sky. "Mister, can you hear me?" Virgil knelt beside him, her eyes immediately drawn to the blood seeping from his shoulder. His eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes as deep and blue as the Montana sky after a storm. "Leave me," he rasped, attempting to push her away with a trembling hand. "They might come back." "You're not dying on my land," she replied firmly, her voice betraying no room for argument. "I didn't survive 3 winters alone out here to let a man bleed to death in my wheat field." Despite his protests, Virgil managed to help the wounded cowboy to his feet. He was heavy, but years of ranch work had made her stronger than most men expected. Together they stumbled toward her modest cabin, his boots dragging trails in the dirt. "Name's Owen," he managed through gritted teeth. "Owen Jameson." "Virgil Sutton," she replied, kicking open her front door. "And you've gone and ruined my afternoon, Mr. Jameson." Inside, she cleared her small table with one sweep of her arm, sending papers and a half-eaten breakfast clattering to the floor. Owen groaned as she helped him onto the wooden surface, his face ashen beneath his tan. "The men who shot you, were they Blackwell's gang?" she asked, cutting away his blood-soaked shirt with kitchen shears. Owen's eyes widened slightly. "You know of them?" "Everyone within 100 miles knows of Silas Cooper and his gang," she muttered, examining the wound. The bullet had torn through muscle but appeared to have missed anything vital. "They've been terrorizing ranches from here to Helena. Rumor is they're looking for something." Owen winced as she pressed a clean cloth against his shoulder. "Or someone." Virgil worked methodically, cleaning the wound with whiskey that made Owen hiss and curse, before threading a needle with steady hands. "This will hurt," she warned, before pushing the needle through his flesh. To his credit, Owen barely flinched, though beads of sweat formed on his brow. "You've done this before," he observed, his voice tight with pain. "When you live alone on the frontier, you learn what needs learning," she replied simply. "My father taught me. Before that, he was a field surgeon during the war." As she worked, Virgil studied the stranger on her table. He wasn't like the typical drifters who occasionally passed through. There was something in the way he held himself, even wounded, that spoke of purpose rather than wanderlust. His hands, though calloused like any cowboy's, showed signs of education in their careful movements. "You're not just passing through, are you?" she asked, tying off the last stitch. Owen met her gaze steadily. "No, madam, I'm not." "You a lawman?" A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Something like that." Virgil helped him sit up and handed him a cup of whiskey. "Drink." "Then you'll tell me why Silas Cooper's men are trying to put bullets in you, and why I shouldn't just turn you out come morning." Owen downed the whiskey in one gulp, grimacing at the burn. "I'm a Pinkerton agent," he admitted quietly. "Sent to infiltrate Cooper's gang and gather evidence of their crimes. I was too close. They found out." Virgil stiffened. The Pinkertons were known throughout the West. Some considered them heroes. Others thought them little better than the criminals they hunted. Her father had respected them, but had always warned that trouble followed in their wake. "So you've brought Cooper's wrath to my doorstep," she stated flatly. "It wasn't a question." "I'll leave at first light," Owen promised. "You've done enough already." Virgil's laugh was sharp and without humor. "And go where, Mr. Jameson? You can barely stand. Besides, they saw you fall here. They'll be back, searching for your body if nothing else." The realization settled between them like a physical presence. Owen's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry to have involved you in this." "Save your apologies," Virgil said, helping him to his feet. "You can sleep in my father's bed. I'll take the first watch." That night, as Owen slept fitfully in the small bedroom, Virgil sat by the window with her father's rifle across her lap, watching the darkness for any sign of movement. The moon cast silver light across the fields, transforming her modest ranch into something otherworldly and strange. She thought of the man sleeping under her roof, a Pinkerton agent, of all things. Her father would have called it providence. Her mother would have called it trouble. Virgil wasn't sure what she called it, but she knew she couldn't have left him to die, regardless of who he was or what dangers he brought with him. Morning came without incident, pale light filtering through the cabin windows. Virgil had dozed off in her chair, the rifle still clutched in her hands. She woke with a start at the sound of movement, only to find Owen standing in the doorway of the bedroom, looking considerably better than he had the previous day. "You should be resting," she chided, setting aside the rifle and running a hand through her tangled auburn hair. "I've imposed on your hospitality enough," he replied, though he was leaning heavily against the doorframe. "I need to get word to my superiors about what happened." Virgil rose, stretching her stiff muscles. "The nearest telegraph is in Liberty Creek, a day's ride from here. You won't make it half that distance in your condition." "I don't have much choice," Owen argued. "Cooper's gang will be scouring these hills for me. Every day I remain puts you in danger." "I was in danger before you arrived," Virgil countered, moving to stoke the fire in the small iron stove. "Cooper's men have been pressuring all the small ranchers in the area to sell. Those who refuse have a habit of encountering accidents." Owen's expression darkened. "Is that why you're here alone?" "Did they know?" She cut him off. "Influenza took my parents, but they've been circling like vultures ever since, waiting for me to give up and leave." She straightened, meeting his gaze directly. "I won't give them the satisfaction." A look of respect crossed Owen's features. "You're a brave woman, Miss Sutton." "I'm a stubborn woman, Mr. Jameson. There's a difference." She gestured to a chair. "Now sit before you fall. I'll make breakfast and then we'll figure out our next move." Over a simple meal of biscuits and salt pork, they formulated a plan. Virgil would ride to Liberty Creek with a message for Owen's contact at the Pinkerton agency. Meanwhile, Owen would recover his strength and keep watch over the ranch. "I don't like sending you alone," Owen frowned, watching as Virgil packed provisions for the journey. "I've made the trip dozens of times," she assured him, checking her pistol before tucking it into her belt. "Besides, they're looking for you, not me. I'm just another stubborn rancher to them." Before she left, she helped change the bandage on Owen's wound. The stitches were holding, and there was no sign of infection, but he was still weak from blood loss. "There's a rifle under the bed and a shotgun above the door," Virgil told him. "If trouble comes, don't try to be a hero." "There's a root cellar beneath the kitchen. The entrance is hidden under the rug. It saved me more than once during Indian raids." Owen caught her hand as she turned to leave. "Be careful, Virgil." The unexpected warmth of his touch sent a curious flutter through her chest. "I always am," she replied, gently withdrawing her hand. The ride to Liberty Creek was uneventful, the vast Montana landscape stretching endlessly around her. Virgil had always found solace in these solitary journeys, in the profound silence broken only by the rhythmic hoofbeats of her mare. Today, however, her thoughts kept returning to the wounded man in her cabin, to the intensity in his blue eyes when he'd grasped her hand. It had been so long since she'd allowed herself to think of such things. After her parents died, survival had consumed her every waking moment. There had been no time for the normal yearnings of a young woman, no opportunity for courtship or dreams of a family of her own. Liberty Creek was a dusty collection of wooden buildings clustered around a single main street. Virgil tied her horse outside the general store and made her way to the telegraph office. The operator, a thin man with spectacles perched on his nose, looked up as she entered. "Miss Sutton, good to see you," he greeted her. "It's been a while since you've come to town." "Hello, Mr. Palmer. I need to send an urgent telegram." She handed him the paper Owen had carefully written, along with the payment. Palmer's eyebrows rose slightly as he read the message, but he asked no questions. In the West, discretion was often the difference between life and death. "It'll go out right away," he assured her. "Anything else I can do for you?" Virgil hesitated. "Has there been any news about Silas Cooper and his gang?" Palmer's expression grew guarded. "Word is they hit the Davies ranch 2 days ago. Old man Davies refused to sell, just like you. They found him with a bullet in his head, his place burned to the ground." A chill ran down Virgil's spine. "And the law?" Sheriff Blake sent a telegram to the territorial marshal. Palmer shrugged. "But you know how it is. By the time anyone official arrives, Cooper will be long gone." After purchasing a few supplies from the general store, Virgil prepared to head back to the ranch. As she was mounting her horse, she noticed 3 riders watching her from across the street. They made no move toward her, but there was something predatory in their stance that set her nerves on edge. She took a different route home, frequently glancing over her shoulder to ensure she wasn't being followed. The sun was beginning to set by the time her cabin came into view, casting long shadows across the golden fields. Something was wrong. The door to her cabin stood open and there was no sign of movement inside. Drawing her pistol, Virgil approached cautiously, her heart hammering in her chest. "Owen," she called softly as she reached the porch. No answer. The interior of the cabin was in disarray, chairs overturned, her few possessions scattered. There had clearly been a struggle. A smear of blood on the floor made her stomach lurch. "Owen," she called more urgently, checking each room. A faint noise from beneath the floor caught her attention. Rushing to the kitchen, Virgil pulled back the rug and lifted the trapdoor to the root cellar. Owen was there, pale and breathing heavily, a fresh bloodstain spreading on his bandaged shoulder. "They came looking," he gasped as she helped him up. "3 of them. I managed to get down here before they found me, but they tore the place apart." "I saw men watching me in Liberty Creek," Virgil told him, helping him to a chair. "They must have followed me back. I thought I'd lost them." Owen winced as she examined his shoulder. "The stitches tore when I was climbing down. Did you manage to send the telegram?" "Yes, but we have another problem." Briefly, she told him about the Davies ranch. "They're becoming bolder if they've started killing openly. We need to leave," Owen said firmly. "Tonight. My contact will have received the telegram by now. We can meet him in Helena." Virgil shook her head. "This is my home. I won't be driven from it." "Virgil, please." Owen's voice was urgent. "These men won't hesitate to kill a woman. I've seen what they're capable of." "So have I," she countered. "They burned the Wilkins barn last spring, stampeded the Hendersons' cattle. They want us scared, want us to run. I won't give them that satisfaction." Their argument was interrupted by the sound of approaching horses. Virgil peered out the window to see 5 riders approaching in the gathering dusk. At their head rode a broad-shouldered man with a silver beard as Cooper himself. "It's too late anyway," she whispered, turning to Owen. "They're here." Owen struggled to his feet, reaching for the rifle. "Get to the cellar, I'll hold them off. In your condition, don't be a fool." Virgil pushed him back down. "There's another way, trust me." Before he could protest, she slipped outside, shotgun in hand, and stood on the porch to meet the approaching riders. Her heart was pounding, but her hands remained steady. "Evening, Miss Sutton," Cooper called as they drew near. "Beautiful property you have here." "State your business, Cooper," she replied coldly. "It's getting late, and I don't entertain visitors after dark." Cooper dismounted, his movements deliberately casual. He was a large man, with cold eyes that had seen too much violence and inflicted even more. "We're looking for a friend of ours," he said. "Tall fellow, dark hair, might be injured. Thought he might have found his way to your hospitality." "I haven't seen anyone fitting that description," Virgil lied smoothly. "Now, if you don't mind, I have chores to finish before nightfall." Cooper smiled, but the expression didn't reach his eyes. "Some of my boys saw you in Liberty Creek today. Said you were sending a telegram." "Mind if I ask what about?" "I was ordering supplies," Virgil replied. "Not that it's any of your business." "Everything in this valley is my business, Miss Sutton." Cooper took a step forward. "Including this ranch of yours. I've made you fair offers, and I've declined them, repeatedly." Cooper's smile vanished. "I'm not a patient man, and I'm growing tired of your stubbornness. The Davies family learned that lesson the hard way." Virgil's grip tightened on her shotgun. "Are you threatening me, Mr. Cooper?" "I'm giving you one last chance to be reasonable," he replied. "Sell the ranch to me, tell us where to find our missing friend, and you can ride away unharmed." "And if I refuse?" Cooper shrugged. "Then I'm afraid we'll have to burn this pretty little cabin to the ground, with or without you inside it." Before Virgil could respond, a shot rang out from inside the cabin. One of Cooper's men fell from his horse, clutching his arm. "I believe the lady asked you to leave," Owen's voice called from the doorway. He stood there, rifle raised despite the obvious pain in his stance. Cooper's face contorted with rage. "Jameson, I should have known you'd hide behind a woman's skirts. The only coward I see is the man threatening to burn a woman's home," Owen replied steadily. What happened next was chaos. Cooper drew his pistol as his men scattered for cover. Virgil fired her shotgun, forcing Cooper to dive aside. Owen's rifle cracked twice more, and another of Cooper's men fell. Virgil retreated into the cabin, slamming the door behind her. "You shouldn't have shown yourself," she hissed at Owen, who was leaning heavily against the wall. "Couldn't let you face them alone," he gasped. Bullets splintered through the windows as Cooper's men opened fire. Virgil and Owen returned shots when they could, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. "We need to get to the cellar," Virgil urged, helping Owen across the kitchen as glass shattered around them. They had just reached the trapdoor when the front door burst open. 2 of Cooper's men rushed in, guns drawn. Owen fired, catching one in the chest. The other aimed at Virgil, but Owen threw himself in front of her. The bullet struck him in the side, spinning him to the floor. Virgil's scream of rage echoed through the cabin as she fired her pistol, dropping the outlaw where he stood. She dragged Owen to the cellar entrance, both of them slick with his blood. "Go," he urged weakly. "Leave me. I'll hold them off." "You're not dying on my land," she repeated fiercely, the words she'd first spoken to him now a desperate promise. With strength born of determination, she half carried, half dragged him down the cellar steps. The root cellar was small and dark, but it had saved her during dangerous times before. A narrow tunnel, dug by her father as an escape route, led from the back of the cellar to an exit in the barn. Above them, they could hear Cooper and his remaining men ransacking the cabin, overturning furniture and smashing whatever they could find. The smell of smoke soon filtered down to them. They had set the cabin ablaze. "We need to move," Virgil whispered, tearing strips from her petticoat to bind Owen's new wound. "Can you walk?" "I'll manage," he replied, though his face was gray with pain. Together they crawled through the narrow tunnel, Owen gritting his teeth against the agony of his wounds. By the time they emerged in the barn, the night sky was orange with the reflection of flames consuming Virgil's home. "My horses," she murmured, hurrying to calm the frightened animals. "We'll take the mountain trail. Cooper doesn't know these hills like I do." With the last of his strength, Owen mounted one of the horses, swaying dangerously in the saddle. Virgil led them out the back of the barn, keeping to the shadows as they slipped away from the burning homestead. They rode through the night, the glow of the fire receding behind them. Virgil led them up into the hills, following trails known only to locals. Owen fell silent, conserving his strength to stay upright in the saddle. Near dawn, they reached a small hunting cabin tucked away in a hidden valley. It had belonged to Virgil's father, a retreat from the hardships of ranch life. "We'll be safe here," she told Owen as she helped him inside. "No one knows about this place except my family." The cabin was simple, a single room with a stone fireplace, a narrow bed and basic supplies. Virgil settled Owen on the bed and examined his wounds by the light of a lantern. "You keep saving my life," he murmured, watching her clean the new bullet wound in his side. "And you keep trying to throw yours away," she replied, her voice tight with emotion. "What were you thinking, stepping in front of that bullet?" Owen's hand covered hers, stilling her movements. "I was thinking I couldn't watch you die." Their eyes met in the dim light of the cabin, and something unspoken passed between them. Virgil's breath caught in her throat at the intensity of his gaze. "Why?" she whispered. "Because in 2 days you've shown more courage and kindness than most people I've known in a lifetime," he answered simply. "Because when I saw you standing on that porch, facing down Silas Cooper without flinching, I thought you were the most remarkable woman I'd ever met." Virgil turned away, suddenly conscious of her disheveled appearance, her dress torn and bloodied, her hair falling loose around her shoulders. "You've lost a lot of blood. You're not thinking clearly." Owen caught her wrist gently. "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years." For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine possibilities. She had long since abandoned a life not defined by solitude and struggle, by the constant fight to keep what was hers. Then reality reasserted itself. "We should rest," she said, pulling away. "Cooper will be searching for us come daylight." They passed 2 days in the hunting cabin, Owen growing stronger as Virgil tended his wounds. They spoke of many things: her life on the ranch, his work as a Pinkerton agent, the dreams they had both set aside in service of duty and survival. On the morning of the 3rd day, they heard horses approaching. Virgil grabbed her pistol, but Owen laid a restraining hand on her arm. "Wait," he said. "It might be my contact from the agency." Indeed, the riders who appeared in the clearing wore the badges of U.S. Marshals, led by a grim-faced man Owen greeted as Marshal Donovan. With them was a smaller man in a neat suit, Owen's Pinkerton contact. "Jameson," the marshal called. "Glad to see you alive. We got your telegram." As they gathered around the small table in the cabin, the marshal explained that they had been tracking Cooper's gang for months. The telegram Owen sent had provided the final evidence they needed to move against him. "We caught Cooper and what was left of his gang trying to leave the territory," Donovan said. "They'll be facing justice for the Davies murder and a dozen other crimes." "And my ranch?" Virgil asked quietly. The marshal's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry, Miss Sutton." The cabin is gone, but the barn and outbuildings still stand. The land is still yours." Virgil nodded, absorbing the loss of her home, the place where she had grown up, where her parents had lived and died. It was a devastating blow, but not an unexpected one. "We'll need your testimony, both of you," the Pinkerton agent added. "Once Cooper and his men are behind bars, this territory can finally know some peace." That evening, after the lawmen had made camp outside, Virgil sat on the cabin porch, watching the sunset paint the Montana hills in shades of gold and crimson. Owen joined her, moving more easily now as his wounds continued to heal. "What will you do now?" he asked quietly, settling beside her. Virgil sighed. "Rebuild, I suppose. It won't be easy, but that land is all I have left of my family." "You don't have to do it alone," Owen said, his voice tentative. "My assignment here is finished, but I've been thinking about staying in Montana." Virgil turned to look at him, studying the sincerity in his face. Why would a Pinkerton agent give up his career to become a rancher? "Not just any rancher," he replied with a small smile. "Partner to the most stubborn woman in the Montana Territory." Despite everything, Virgil found herself laughing. "You don't know the first thing about ranching, Owen Jameson." "I'm a quick study," he countered, "and I know about loyalty, about fighting for what matters." He took her hand in his, "about not leaving someone to face their battles alone." "Is that all?" she asked softly. Owen's expression grew serious. "No. I know that when I thought I might die on your land, the thing I regretted most was that I'd never get the chance to know you better, to see if what I felt, what I feel, could grow into something more." Virgil had spent 3 years building walls around her heart, focusing only on survival. Now, looking into Owen's eyes, she felt those walls beginning to crumble. "It won't be easy," she warned. "Rebuilding the ranch, starting over." "Nothing worth having ever is," he replied. She allowed him to draw her closer, his arm encircling her shoulders as they watched darkness settle over the mountains. For the first time in years, Virgil Sutton didn't feel alone. Spring came to Montana, bringing with it new life and renewal. The cabin Virgil and Owen built on the site of the old one was larger, sturdier, with wide windows that looked out over fields now green with new wheat. The trial of Silas Cooper and his gang had ended in conviction, bringing a measure of justice to the families they had terrorized. Owen had kept his word, proving himself a dedicated, if sometimes comically inexperienced rancher. What he lacked in farming knowledge, he made up for in determination, and the quick intelligence that had served him well as a Pinkerton. On a warm evening in May, as they sat on the porch of their new home, Owen took Virgil's hand and pressed something into her palm, a simple gold band. "I'm not a man of many possessions," he said quietly, "but everything I am, everything I have, is yours if you'll have me." Virgil looked down at the ring, then up at the man who had literally taken bullets for her, who had stayed to help rebuild when he could have returned to his old life. "I never thought I'd share this land with anyone," she admitted. "Never thought I'd want to. And now—" Owen's voice held a note of uncertainty that made Virgil's heart swell with tenderness. In answer, she slipped the ring onto her finger and leaned forward to press her lips to his. They were married in Liberty Creek a month later, a simple ceremony attended by neighbors and the few friends they had in the territory. As they exchanged vows, Virgil thought of how strangely life could turn, how a gunshot on a summer day had brought her not death, but a new beginning. "I love you, Virgil Jameson," Owen whispered as they shared their first dance as husband and wife. "And I love you," she replied, her voice steady and sure. "Thank you for not dying on my land." Owen's laugh rang out, drawing smiles from those around them. "Best decision I ever made." As seasons passed, the Jameson ranch prospered under their joint care. The following spring brought their first child, a daughter with her father's blue eyes and her mother's determination. 2 sons would follow in the years to come, filling the house with laughter and the happy chaos of family life. Owen never returned to the Pinkerton agency, finding deeper satisfaction in building a life with Virgil than he ever had in pursuing outlaws. Occasionally, he would assist the local sheriff with particularly troublesome cases, putting his investigative skills to use for the growing community. Virgil never forgot the night she had watched her childhood home burn, but the pain of that loss faded with time, replaced by the joy of creating something new, not just a ranch, but a family, a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. On summer evenings, they would often sit together on the porch, watching the sun set over fields that stretched to the distant mountains. Sometimes they would speak of the strange twist of fate that had brought them together, of the bullets and fire they had survived. But more often, they would simply sit in companionable silence, hands intertwined, content in the knowledge that what they had built together, both the ranch and their love, had foundations strong enough to weather any storm the frontier might bring.